So we're back in the UFC Apex once more, another fight night, and the main event, well, it's Holm and Ketlen Vieira, and to say I'm like over the moon about this main event, I can't say that, but it's an 11 fight card. Again, you might get like 100 people watching this because I anticipate there's going to be some NBA playoffs on while this is going to be on. There's going to be some baseball, there's going to be some Stanley Cup, and there's going to be again like 100 people watching this fight night card from the UFC Apex. Given will I be one of those 100? Yeah, so I mean, here we go. Holm, Ketlen Vieira is the main event of this 11 fight card in the UFC Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. And real quick, last week we went 6-5. I mean, the Ketlen by decision thing hits again. It was just a pretty mid-week. We should be able to bounce back this week, though. I mean, it didn't get off to a good start when Nick Maximov got submitted in about like a minute by Andre Petroski. So I don't know. We'll get on to this week's card, though, folks. And if you have not yet, though, make sure that subscribe button down below. We're like 40 subscribers away from 10,000, so let's make that happen. And yeah, let's get into it. So I think this fight was announced pretty recently. I mean, I don't think there's even odds for this yet because, I mean, on the screen, I don't have the odds yet. But Elise Reed taking on Sam Hughes. And these are two fighters who have fought pretty recently. For Elise Reed, just fought 2 months ago when she beat Corey McKenna over in London. It was a competitive fight. For McKenna, she was able to execute the takedowns, but wasn't really able to hold Reed down for many points in that fight. So it was more Reed just working her boxing in that one and winning the fight. She bounced back because her first fight in the UFC was just a dominant performance by Sijara Eubanks for the 4 minutes that fight did last. Back in the summer of 2021, it's just Eubanks dominating, eventually finishing Elise Reed by TKO. Once she got to the ground, worked her ground and pound and finished the fight. That was Reed's debut fight in the UFC because before that, she was the Cage Fury strawweight champion. Then she comes in, she goes up to 125 to fight Eubanks, loses, then goes back down to 15. Is a huge underdog fighting Corey McKenna in London, plus 230 underdog. She ends up winning it by split decision. So that's for Elise Reed. She's taking on Sam Hughes, another fighter who just fought more recently too. Just fought last month. I mean, as of recording, she fought, 29 days ago when she beat Estela Nunez by majority decision for Hughes. It was the takedowns, and it was just the all-around boxing that was that pushed her to victory in that one. She outlasted Estela Nunez, you could say, in that fight. Nunez did tire definitely towards the end of it because Nunez does win that first round. You can make the case maybe she does win that second, but in the third is really Sam Hughes starting to take over, and Estela Nunez really just couldn't get going after that. She just hit a block basically after that second round. Before Sam Hughes, her first 3 fights in the UFC, she comes in short notice. She loses to Tisha Torres. Torres finishes her. It's a doctor stoppage after the end of the first round. It's just dominant striking by Tisha Torres. Then Loma Luponi just beats Sam Hughes everywhere. She beats her on the ground. She beats her on the feet. And then Hughes runs into Luana Pinheiro after that. Pinheiro, it's a somewhat close fight, but Pinheiro is able to knock down Sam Hughes in that fight. She's able just to outstrike her throughout the entirety of that one. And again, it was just Pinheiro just dominating that fight from pillar to post, winning all 3 rounds in that one against Sam Hughes. So you got Reed and Sam Hughes now in this one. I mean, I think it's a close fight considering Reed. She looked all right in the Corey McKenna fight. And she was able to, because if we're comparing Corey McKenna and Estela Nunez, because the 2 fighters that Reed and Hughes have beat so far in the UFC, I would say the McKenna win's more impressive. At least I think. I mean, I know we came into the we had the belief that Corey McKenna was a pretty hyped up prospect coming into the UFC because she beat Vanessa Demopoulos, who has a win down in the UFC after she submitted Silvana Gomez Juarez. But she beats Demopoulos in the contender. Then she beats Kay Hansen, who at the time we thought that was a huge win, which maybe it still is, but I think Kay Hansen's probably now out of the UFC. She'll probably go back to like Invicta or something coming up. But yeah, McKenna beats Kay Hansen. Did she really, though? I mean, when you watch that fight, I think McKenna won, but it's a very close, razor-thin decision. And then McKenna goes on to lose Elise Reed. And then again, for Sam Hughes, she's 0-3 in the UFC. And then she goes on to beat Estela Nunez. So it's a close fight, honestly, to pick. Ever so slightly, I'm going to Elise Reed. I mean, I would not put any money down in this fight. I'm not confident at all. I think Reed's slightly better if she is able to keep this one on the feet, and we've seen Hughes struggle early in fights. As long as Reed isn't, going to gas towards that third round like Estela Nunez did, I think she should be able to win. So I'm going to go Elise Reed by winning the first 2 rounds. I think she should be able to fight off the grappling that Sam Hughes will try to bring like she did in the Nunez fight. I think Reed's going to be able to keep it standing, and I think she'll win a decision. So Chase Hooper's back, and he's fighting Felipe Colares. And it's like every Chase Hooper fight, he has 100% a chance to win. It's just a matter of can he pull off a miracle submission, because Chase Hooper's not the greatest, and I'm a big Chase Hooper guy, and he's only 22 years old. Like, honestly, Chase Hooper could benefit a lot just from, 3 years just going to regional promotions. Like, if he went back to Titan FC, or if he went back to CFFC, won their championship, and just defended it for a little bit, and then came back to the UFC, worked on his striking, the guy could be a serious problem. I'm just concerned, again, with him sticking around, fighting some of these guys in the UFC, that are UFC caliber, which, don't get me wrong, it's not a bad thing, but he's going to get mixed results against these guys. I mean, the guy's 2-2 in the UFC, and we could talk about every single one of his fights right now. I mean, he comes in, he beats Daniel Tamor, he looks great in that fight. I mean, Daniel Tamor doesn't really do anything against him. Hooper gets him down, he works his elbows, he wins the fight. Then he takes on Alex Caceres, and Alex Caceres, who, I mean, I know he's in and out of the rankings a little bit, but Caceres is a real top 20 guy, and he goes in there and dominates Chase Hooper in Hooper's second UFC fight. I mean, they didn't even look like they were in the same league. Like, it was all Alex Caceres in that one. And then Hooper goes on to fight slippery Peter Barrett, and now Pete Barrett's not in the UFC anymore. I think he went 0-2 in the promotion, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he went 0-2 in the UFC now, outside the UFC, since he's 1-1 in Cage Titans. But Pete Barrett was not the greatest UFC fighter, and Barrett is beating Chase Hooper down for 2 rounds. Like, I know, like, on the scorecards maybe, or on the, like, stats wise doesn't look that bad, but, like, damage wise, yeah, Pete Barrett is doing putting way more damage on Chase Hooper than Hooper's reflecting onto Pete Barrett. Like, yeah, Hooper's, again, closer with the strikes than you would think by looking at it just by watching the fight, but Pete Barrett is inflicting way more damage. Hooper gets a miracle Minari heel hook. I mean, he rolls for it, then he gets it, and puts away Pete Barrett with, like, 2 minutes left in the fight. So he wins that. They turn him around against Steven Ocho Peterson, and Steven Ocho Peterson just beats him on the ground. I mean, Hooper's fishing for submissions, he can't get them. You see a couple reversals on the ground, but it's Peterson staying out of damage, or staying out of harm's way and winning the fight by decision. So Hooper's taking on Felipe Colares now. Colares is a guy who has dealt with his fair share of troubles on the ground. I mean, he comes in the UFC, Geraldo de Freitas just kind of beats him down on the ground in their fight on the Assunção Moraes card over in Brazil. He beats Domingo Pilarte by split decision in a very close fight. He gets dominated on the ground by Montel Jackson when they fought in Raleigh, North Carolina on the Blaze dos Santos card. I mean, he gets like 30-25 in that fight. It's Montel Jackson. I mean, Jackson knocks down Colares in that fight. He holds him down for like 11 minutes. He gets 11 takedowns. And then Colares turns that around, fights Luke Sanders in a very close fight over, I believe that was Reyes Prochazka. It's a close fight. Colares does win 2 rounds in that one, and they turn him around after that. Fights Chris Gutierrez in a split decision. I mean, I think it's pretty evident that Colares does lose that one, but it's a split decision. Gutierrez picks up the win. So that's been Felipe Colares' run so far in the UFC. It's been up and down, definitely, and you can make the case that he maybe loses the Luke Sanders fight, and the Domingo Pilarte fight is a razor-thin fight that maybe he wins, maybe he doesn't, but just not much happened in that one. There's a pathway to victory for Chase Hooper on this one. I mean, if he can take down Felipe Colares, he can win the fight. Like, no doubt about it, I think he can. It's just a matter of will he. And will he, Colares keep this one on the feet? And I know Colares isn't the greatest striker, and he's not, he's... Some of his fights he does want to get on the ground too, but I mean, like the Montel Jackson fight, that's not the case. But still, Colares is obviously going to want to keep this one standing against Chase Hooper, because Chase Hooper's striking is not good. Like, okay, yeah, again, he might be able to put on volume, but damage-wise, Chase Hooper's not inflicting any damage on his opponents. It's just not happening on the feet. On the ground, sure, 100%. Like, Chase Hooper's ground pound actually isn't that bad. Like, look at his first fight when he beats Tamor. Yeah, it's solid. But, pure striking, Colares should be able to run through Chase Hooper. It's just a matter of, can Hooper get on the ground? Can he have success down there? I don't know. It's so tough picking a Chase Hooper fight. I'm going to say he will have success on the ground. I don't know. I'm going to go Chase Hooper. I think Chase Hooper can win. I think he can. If Colares gets taken down 11 times by Montel Jackson, I think Hooper's going to be able to get him down at least once. And if that happens, then I guess Chase Hooper's going to win by submission. I guess. Don't take my word for it. This is a razor-thin fight. I mean, honestly, you're going to know who's going to win this fight. Actually, you're not going to know who's going to win this fight for the first round, because Chase Hooper just going for Minari and locking a heel hook like he did to Pete Barrett. I don't know. I'm going to go Hooper by submission, second round. I could 100% see a world, though, where he can't get the fight on the ground. He just gets pieced up on the feet by Felipe Colares. Ever so slightly, Chase Hooper by submission second. Again, don't take my word for it. Next up, we've got Jonathan Martinez taking on Vince Vendetta Morales. For Jonathan Martinez, on a 2-fight winning streak, and he has won 4 of his last 5. And honestly, looking back at it now, the Davey Grant fight, I mean, that loss is nothing to be ashamed of anymore. Like, at the time, we were like, okay, Davey Grant hasn't been around a while. He hasn't fought in a minute. You thought Jonathan Martinez was probably going to go in there and beat him. I know Davey Grant had the win over Martin Day, but still, like, Martin Day wasn't the greatest UFC fighter. So, still, you thought Jonathan Martinez was a hype prospect at the time, was going to be able to, really run through Davey Grant. He was a -300 favorite, and Davey Grant stuns him with a big overhand left and puts him down. It's going to happen to you when you fight a guy like Davey Grant, because you look at Jonathan Martinez's UFC run, other than the Andre Sokolov fight, and Sokolov, I mean, don't get me started on that guy. Other than that fight, he's got the close fight against Andre Ewell. Split decision loss for Martinez, technically on the scorecards. But I mean, you watch that fight, Jonathan Martinez beats Andre Ewell. That's a robbery of a decision. And other than that, it's just the Davey Grant fight where he gets just stunned all of a sudden. And other than that, you look at his, 4 of the last 5 for him. It's the knockout win over Frankie Saenz, where he flying knees him. It's the Thomas Almeida win, where he beats him by unanimous decision. He beats Lavashvili, his fight after Grant beats him by decision. And then he beats Alejandro Perez, the fight after that, by unanimous decision. He comes back from some adversity in that fight too. He gets knocked down by Perez, stays in the fight, he ends up winning it. The guy's good. Jonathan Martinez is a good fighter. He's taken on Vince Morales, who has had his up and down so far in the UFC. I mean, he gets his shot in the contender, he loses to Domingo Pilarte, then he goes to Bellator. He wins a fight over a 3-4 Justin Hugo. So the UFC signs him 2 months later. He takes on Song Yadong, he loses. He beats Ayman Zahabi, loses to Benito Lopez, loses to Chris Gutierrez when Gutierrez just like kicked the crap out of his legs. Then he beats Draco Rodriguez on a UFC 265 in Houston, and then he beats Luis Smoko. He knocks him out in the first round last December. And you saw Luis Smoko last night against dangerous Davey Grant. Really good fight, but Davey Grant won, just like we predicted. But that's been Morales' run so far in the UFC. It has been up and down. I think you're going to see a striking fight, obviously, between him and Martinez. Martinez is a guy who likes to stand and bang. For Vince Morales, I think he's landed like, one takedown his entire UFC run. It is the fight where he beat Draco Rodriguez, and I don't even think he had top control for all that long in that fight either. So you're going to see striking between Martinez and Morales. Who's the better striker? Jonathan Martinez. I think Jonathan Martinez is going to win. I think the guy's been on a roll recently. He's won 4 of his last 5, and we're going to make it 5 out of his last 6. I'm going to go Jonathan Martinez just to outstrike Morales. I think he can, stay out of danger. Going Martinez by unanimous decision. Yeah, this is an intriguing fight. I mean, we got Omar Morales and Uros Medic, 2 guys looking to bounce back from 2 poor performances that they've had most recently. For Omar Morales, it's the submission loss to JSP, Jonathan Pierce, back at UFC 266. He gets sub by rear naked choke in the second round. JSP's a solid guy, though. He was able to land 6 takedowns in that fight against Omar Morales. 5 minutes of control, over 5 minutes of control in a fight that only lasted 8 minutes. So there's that. And then for Uros Medic, I mean, he comes in the UFC, looks like a world beater, destroying Alon Cruz. And Alon Cruz is back at Fury FC. He's back doing his thing. He just knocked out Charles Cheeks, I think, his last fight in the second round. But Medic comes in there, his first UFC fight, absolutely beats the brakes off of Alon Cruz. He wants the Joe Rogan experience call. I mean, trained by day, Joe Rogan experience by night. I think that's the saying. I'm not the biggest JRE guy. I mean, I'll watch some, but Uros Medic goes in there. I'm not as big a fan of the Joe Rogan experience as Uros Medic is, though. I mean, that guy came in there, destroyed Alon Cruz. He was just more excited to talk to Joe Rogan than he was actually winning the fight. But I mean, you look at the fight against Alon Cruz, it's dominance. It's pure dominance out of Medic. 45-0 on the significant strike count right there for Medic, and it's a knockout that he gets in 1 minute and 40 seconds. But then he turns that around. They give him a huge step up after that. On the same card where Morales gets subbed by JSP, Medic fights Jalen Turner, and Jalen Turner subs him in the first round. He lands a takedown pretty early off the bat, gets him down, holds him down, rear naked choke, fight over. And I think that's a pathway that is open for Omar Morales in this fight, 100%. I know Morales was the victim of, getting subbed in his last fight as well. Same can be said about Medic, but I mean, definitely, I think if anyone's going to have the advantage on the ground, it's going to be Omar Morales. And I know JSP took him down 6 times in their fight, but JSP's really good on the ground, really, technically sound on the ground. For Morales, you look at his fight against Shane Young. Yeah, he's able to land 2 takedowns. He wasn't really able to keep that positioning for all that much time, but I think the pathway to victory on the ground is there for Omar Morales, and that is something that does favor him. On the feet, I do like Medic. I know Morales can switch it up on the feet, and I know he had that fight where he did go off, 3 rounds with Giga Chikadze, and he beat Gabriel Mowgli Benitez on the feet. Same with the Dong Hyung Ma fight as well. I know he's able to do that, but I think on the feet, Medic's a little bit quicker. I think he does have a little more power than what Morales will bring. So for Omar Morales, you've got to be able to switch it up in this fight. You got to be able to take it to the ground. You got to be able to, keep it standing, and again, mixing the grappling with his striking. It's an intriguing fight, honestly, because of the different ways this can go. For Medic, he's going to want to keep this one on the feet, 100%. If he can keep this on the feet, I think he'll have a really good chance of winning it. I don't know. I mean, it's honestly a razor-thin one for me. On Tapology, the favorite right now is Medic, like 70% to 30%. Odds-wise, you got -150 for Morales, +130 for Medic as of last night. I ever so slightly, I'm going to take the favorite in Omar Morales. I think he'll be able to win. I think he'll be able to grind out a decision. I mean, I wouldn't not be surprised if there's a world though where Omar Morales gets caught early by Uros Medic and he just keeps it on the feet and he eventually puts him away in the first round. I can 100% see that happening. I'll go with the Venezuelan, though, and Omar Morales ever so slightly. I think he'll be able to grind out that decision, work in the ground, mixing and striking up with that as well. Going Morales by decision. I mean, shout out to Parker Porter for taking this fight. It's cool and all, but I mean, Jaitan Almeida, this dude's good, man. Almeida's a savage in there. Like, truly. This guy's really good. Look at the Danilo Marquez fight. I mean, Jaitan Almeida beats Danilo Marquez in every sort of way that you think Danilo Marquez is good at. I mean, immediately, Jaitan Almeida is able just to put him on he puts him on the ground immediately. I mean, the significant strike count, 30-0. I mean, he takes him down, he keeps him down, he ground and pounds. I mean, it's not a fun watch. It's all Jaitan Almeida in that fight. Danilo Marquez gets cut from the UFC afterwards. That was at 205. Now he's going up to 265 to take on a guy in Parker Porter who's a pretty big 265 pounder. I mean, the guy went in at 263 his last fight when he beat Almeida. And the thing about this though with Parker Porter, he's 3-1 in the UFC, which is good. His only loss is to top 10 fighter Chris Daukaus. And those is his UFC debuts, both of those guys' debuts. UFC 252, Daukaus knocks him out with a knee. That's cool and all. But he's had competitive fights with the likes of Josh Parisian, Chase Sherman, and Almeida. And you can make the case that Almeida beats him in their last fight at Walker Hill. And Almeida is not great by any stretch of the imagination. He's going to get Josh Parisian up next. But those are two guys that Porter's beat, and those are two very low-level heavyweights. The other low-level heavyweight he's beat is Chase Sherman, right? I mean, he's beat three guys that... I mean, does Parisian have a win in the UFC? Because he lost to Almeida. I don't think Parisian's got a win in the UFC yet. Oh no, he beat Roque Martinez, who's another low-level heavyweight who I do believe is at the promotion now. Chase Sherman, who is he? Beat Ike Villanueva, but everyone's beat Ike Villanueva. And then for Almeida, he hasn't won yet. So again, it's that weird thing with Parker Porter. He's lost to technically he's only lost to top 10 guys, which is one, Chris Daukaus. And he's only beat guys who barely have wins in the UFC. He's 3-1, don't get me wrong. And it's crazy to see Jailton Almeida as a minus 675 favorite in this one. You're getting plus 475 coming back on Parker Porter. But yeah, I think Jailton Almeida should be able to dominate this fight. I think he's going to be able to take down Porter immediately. He's not going to play on the feet. He's going to take him down, and he is going to ground and pound him into oblivion. Jailton Almeida first round TKO. I think that's what's going to happen. I think a submission might open up as well, 100%. But we've seen Porter in there against some good fighters. I mean, hell, Gabriel Gonzaga submitted him in 2011. John Jones knocked him out in 2008. That's a thing. But yeah, no, I like Jailton Almeida here. I think it's just pure dominance. He's going to come in there. He should be able to take him down. He wasn't afraid to enter the guard of a really good grappler in Danilo Marquez. He's not going to be afraid to get, go down with Parker Porter. And I don't think Porter possesses the knockout power to put him out immediately too. That's just not how Parker Porter fights. I mean, hell, all of Parker Porter's wins in the UFC have been by decision because he's more of just a, guy who's gonna put the volume on you at heavyweight. He's like an Andre Arlovski heavyweight. That's more what Parker Porter is. And honestly, if Parker Porter somehow beats Jailton Almeida, he'll probably fight Andre Arlovski next. And honestly, they'll probably put Jailton Almeida against Andre Arlovski next too. And somehow, someway, Andre Arlovski will probably win 29-28 split decision. I'm just saying. But Jailton Almeida should be able to go in this fight against Parker Porter, take down. He'll either find a submission or he'll be a TKO with the ground and pound. I'm going to go TKO ground and pound. You can definitely see submission as well, but I think honestly the TKO is a little bit more likely. Going Jailton Almeida, first round TKO. This fight shouldn't be close. So when I was watching the broadcast last night for the Blachowicz-Rakic card, and they were showing us the card for next week, Holm, Vieira, and they show you the featured prelim. And I think it's Brendan Fitzgerald says it. Yeah, we have a featured prelim between Joseph Holmes and Alan Amedovski. Like, what? And then right under it, it's Parker Porter and Jailton Almeida. Why is this the featured prelim? I mean, you got 0-1 Joe Holmes, who's lost to Jamie Pickett in the UFC. And Jamie Pickett isn't great. I mean, he's all right. He's not bad, but I mean, he's Jamie Pickett. And then Alan Amedovski is a guy who hasn't fought in 3 years. And oh, by the way, he's 0-2 in the UFC. He got dominated for 3 rounds by Krzysztof Jotko. And John Phillips, that John Phillips knocked him out in 14 seconds. What are we doing here? Why this isn't the first fight of the night, I don't know. But I think Joe Holmes just goes straight through him. I think I'm going to go with the ugly man, Joseph Holmes, in this one, and I'll tell you why. But Alan Amedovski, he was booked twice against Hugh Yangzhang. That fight never happened. He's supposed to fight Bevon Lewis in 2020. That fight didn't happen either. So he's been booked 3 times, hasn't made the walk any of those 3 times. He fought in Bellator before heading into the UFC. He was 2-0 over there, picked up a big win at Bellator 211. And then goes in straight to that fight against Krzysztof Jotko. And that fight against Jotko, it's dominance on the feet, it's dominance on the ground. It's more on the ground, but Jotko, 10 minutes of control time in that one. Amedovski can't get going. I know Joe Holmes' first fight in the UFC wasn't the way he wanted it to go, but at least it was competitive. Like, he stood with Jamie Pickett, and he traded with Jamie Pickett. I know Pickett took him down twice, but Holmes had his moments in that fight. Don't get me wrong, it's not, it wasn't a great fight. I wouldn't say go watch it, but it's not a horrible fight, and Holmes stays in that fight against Pickett. Could you tell me that, do you think that Jamie Pickett, or do you think that Alan Amedovski would be able to stand there with Jamie Pickett for 3 rounds? I don't know. And again, it's not like Pickett's the greatest fighter in any world. He's not. But I just think Alan Amedovski's like really low level. And I think Joe Holmes should be able to go in here. I think he should be able to have this fight any way he wants it. I think on the feet, I mean, you saw how he knocked out Pati on Fury to get his contract in the UFC. He's able to do that. He's got good submissions as well when he submitted Shanti Barnes on the Contender Series. Yeah, I think Joe Holmes any way he wants it in this fight. First round submission or knockout. I think it's kind of like the Jaitan Almeida fight. You're going to see a first round finish anyway, or you're going to see that first round finish either way from Joe Holmes. It's just a matter of where is it going to be. I think it's going to be by knockout. I'll say knockout because then you have the advantage of, okay, he might win by ground and pound or he might just finish him on the feet. I'll settle for that. I can't tell you if he's going to knock him out on the feet or if he's going to put him down on the ground and then work his ground and pound and finish Amedovski. But either way, he's finishing Alan Amedovski before 5 minutes. I don't know what the under is on this fight, but I do like it. I'm going to go Joseph the Ugly Man Holmes to finish Alan Amedovski in the first round by TKO. So kicking off the main card, we've got Eric Anders taking on Jun Young Park. I think this fight's pretty simple. Can Eric Anders stay off his back? And can Eric Anders avoid getting taken down? Because that's really where the base game from Jun Young Park is. I mean, the Iron Turtle, I mean, you know what his game plan is going to be. I know he didn't execute that game plan when he fought Gregory Rodriguez because Rodriguez is actually the one taking him down. Rodriguez was the one pushing the pace and the feet. I mean, RoboCop just kind of dominated Jun Young Park in that one. But, I mean, you look at Park's fights before that when he beat Stefan Njokuani. I mean, it's just him trying to go in there, laying takedowns. He wasn't as dominant with his wrestling in that fight against Njokuani than he was in his fights previous, but still, it was him trying to land the takedowns. He was able to outstrike Njokuani as well. But you look at the fight when he beats John Phillips. Well, John Phillips couldn't wrestle to save his life, and Jun Young Park just held him down for 13 minutes in that fight. I mean, come on. And then Marc-Andre Barriault is more the same when he beats him over in Busan, South Korea on the Egger and Korean Zombie card. So, for the most part, you know what Jun Young Park's going to bring. He's going to bring a little bit of striking. He's going to throw short shots, and then eventually he's going to go in and shoot for a takedown and try to land it. That's what he's going to try to do in all of his fights. For Eric Anders, it's the power shots he throws. He's not horrible. I mean, with his offensive wrestling, he's not horrible, I guess. I mean, you saw that in the Darren Stewart fight the first time around. He was able to just kind of bully Darren Stewart in that one. He knocked him down, and then, of course, until the illegal knee happened. But I mean, he gets his revenge in the second Darren Stewart fight. He wins on the feet instead that time, and he beats him by unanimous decision. I actually took Eric Anders to beat Andre Muniz. I thought he was going to be able to keep the fight on the feet, and obviously if you're able to keep a fight standing against Muniz, you should be able to win. Obviously it didn't happen. Muniz got him down. He submitted him with an armbar in about 3 minutes, so that didn't go our way. But I mean, Andre Muniz is kind of a different animal on the ground. I mean, honestly, truly, some of the best jiu-jitsu you're going to find at 185 right now. All I'm saying is that Andre Muniz is a problem for Uriah Hall, and I don't fancy Uriah Hall's chances in that fight. But for Anders, again, it's been up and down in the UFC. He, loses to Krzysztof Jotko. He beats Gerald Mearshart. He beats a very bad fighter in Vinicius Mojea. Loses to Roundtree. Loses to Elias Theodorou. Loses to Thiago Santos in the main event. Beats Tim Williams. Loses to Lyoto Machida in the main event in Brazil. I mean, it's just been up and down for Anders, and it's just been interesting. I don't know. I think Park should be able to beat him. I honestly think if Jun Young Park's just able to take him down, he should be able to pick up the victory. Like, you even go back to Anders' second fight against Darren Stewart. Darren Stewart's the one initiating the grappling and trying to take him down. And yeah, he takes down Eric Anders. It's just Anders was just so much physically stronger and physically just more built than Darren Stewart than he was able to reverse that positioning, and he was the one on top for most of the fight. I don't think he's going to be able to do that to Jun Young Park. I think Park should be able to land takedowns and keep his top positioning. If Park's able to do that to a guy like Stefan Njokuani and he's able to do that to a guy like Marc-Andre Barriault and John Phillips, who's to say he's not going to do that same exact game plan to Eric Anders? So I'm taking the Iron Turtle and Jun Young Park to come in there. I think he'll be able to go back to the well a million times in this one with the takedowns. I don't think Anders is going to be able to stay off his back. So I like Jun Young Park to beat Eric Anders by unanimous decision by using his wrestling. Now at strawweight, we have got Polyana Viana taking on Tabitha Ricci. Two really good grapplers, and that's really, I mean, all I can say about this fight. It's two really good grapplers going at it. We're going to see who's better. Because on the feet, I think I like Polyana Viana slightly more than Tabitha Ricci on the feet. I think. I mean, obviously we're not going to know until Saturday because both these two are primary grapplers and they're always looking for submissions and whatnot. But I think pure striking, ever so slightly, I'm taking Polyana Viana. Just what I've seen, and I know, okay, I'm looking at the Hannah Cyphers fight, and that's not a good thing when I'm saying, oh yeah, I think her striking's not bad, because she didn't look bad against Hannah Cyphers. Hannah Cyphers knocked down Polyana Viana in that fight in 2019, but I think that's why Viana's striking is better. Because, okay, Tabitha Ricci, I don't know what read you get in Tabitha Ricci, because okay, she comes in the UFC, she fights Manon Fiorot, like short notice they give her Manon Fiorot. I mean, what do you want her to do? She gets finished standing TKO in the second round. Okay, good stoppage. Next, they book her against Maria Oliveira, so it's Oliveira's UFC debut. You're looking at this fight late last year. I mean, Ricci's a -275 favorite in that one. We took Tabitha Ricci to win. She obviously won it by decision. It was weird Maria Oliveira coming into the UFC because she's a fighter that ran into Marina Rodriguez in the Contender Series. She loses. Rodriguez finishes her in 3 minutes. She goes outside the UFC, or outside the contender. She wins in Curitiba top fight 12 against a fighter who's 0-1, and then she goes to Arena Global after that, beats fighters 0-0. And then she gets the call back to the UFC fighting Ricci. Maria Oliveira was so unproven going into that fight. She's still unproven, and when she fights Gloria De Paula coming up, I don't even know how to break that fight down because, again, you just don't know how good she is because she's lost to Rodriguez and Ricci, and then she's beat a bunch of fighters who's no one's ever heard of, just kind of Skura too, back in Ryzen. So I don't know what to get out of Maria Oliveira, and that brings me back to Ricci. So how good is she? Because you look at her results outside the UFC, okay, she's fought in LFA. Who's she fighting in LFA? 0-0, 1-5, 2-3. And then she gets Manon Fiorot, who's a fighter who's probably a fight away from the belt. At 125, a weight class she went up in. Again, it is so confusing, man. Like, you know Ricci's got really good jiu-jitsu. And what she did in the Maria Oliveira fight, she was able to mix up the striking and the takedowns. Because you look at it, I mean, every single round, she's able to outpoint Maria Oliveira on the feet, and then she'll swoop in, get a takedown, and that's how she'll end the round. That's what she did basically in every single round. She is able to land a takedown in all 3 of those against Maria Oliveira, and Oliveira really just isn't able to work back up from her back. So, can she do that against Viana, though? Because Viana, a fighter who's got really good arm bars off her back. Hell, you look at the Emily Whitmire fight, she's able to sub her by armbar, and the Mallory Martin fight, more of the same. Martin's the one initiating the takedowns, but then Viana throws her like 5 different submissions in 2 minutes and eventually subs her with an armbar off her back. So, I think Polyana Viana wins. I think the jiu-jitsu might cancel each other out in this fight, so I don't think anyone's going to get a stoppage. I'll go Viana by decision. I know she is somewhat of a finisher so far in the UFC. All 3 of her wins are by sub. The Maya Stevenson win, she wins bare naked choke. Then she, subs Whitmire by armbar and then subs Mallory Martin by armbar. This time I think she'll win it by decision. I don't think she's going to be able to get off a submission against such a good jiu-jitsu practitioner in it, Ricci. I would look at plus 115 for Viana, but again, it's a women's MMA fight. A lot can go down in this one. So I'll go Viana, not overly confident with it, but I think she should be able to win. I do like Viana on the feet. I think she is just a little bit better than Ricci up there, and then on the ground, I think Viana's got more to offer off her back to make Ricci think about shooting in for a takedown to the point where I think Viana should be able to dictate where this fight is going and where she does want it to be. So, go on Polyana Viana to win this one by unanimous decision. Next up, it is the return of Chidi Bang Bang. Chidi Njokuani. He's taken on Dusko Todorovic. For Njokuani, yeah, really good first out in the UFC. Comes in there, knocks out Marc-Andre Barriault in 16 seconds. And that's how you make your debut. Njokuani looked very good in that fight. He looked very good in his fight in the contender when he beat Mario Souza. Njokuani is pretty damn good. And I feel really, I don't know. I'd pick Marc-Andre Barriault in that fight to beat him. It was a stupid pick. I don't know what I was thinking. But anyway, yeah, so Njokuani taking on Dusko Todorovic. I am a little bit concerned with Dusko Todorovic in this one because I think this fight could end up a lot like the Punahele-Soriano fight. And that's where Dusko Todorovic gets knocked down early in that fight and then eventually Soriano knocks him out later in that first round. Because, I mean, Todorovic, let's be real, he's fought an interesting schedule of guys so far in the UFC because he comes in, he beats Daquan Townsend. Okay, he dominates Daquan Townsend in Fight Island. Daquan Townsend is not very good. But let's be honest with ourselves. Daquan Townsend is not a good fighter. Not a great fighter. Better fighter than I'll ever be, but come on. Dusko Todorovic comes in there, he takes him down, ground and pound fight over. Okay, after that, he loses to Punahele-Soriano. They booked that fight, UFC on ABC 1. It's undefeated versus undefeated. Soriano's the guy who beats him. He knocks him out in the first round. Then they turn him around against Gregory Rodriguez. RoboCop just beats him everywhere. On the feet, on the ground, it's Rodriguez just dominating that fight. It was more just a stand-up affair, but Rodriguez showed in that fight too. Okay, I can go to the takedowns if I want to, but he wanted that fight standing, and he was able to piece together Dusko Todorovic. Then they booked Todorovic against Maki Pitolo. Maki Pitolo isn't great. I mean, the guy's gonna be fighting Eagle FC this weekend on an undercard, Junior Dos Santos and Yorgan de Castro. Yeah, that's happening. Maybe we'll make a video about that, maybe we won't, I don't know. But yeah, Todorovic comes in there and he finishes him in the first round. I mean, he takes him down, he ground and pounds him, fight over. That's Pitolo's, glaring weakness is his takedown defense. And Todorovic comes in there and he just beats him down on the ground. Now, will he be able to take down Chidi Njokuani? I don't think so. I know Mario Souza took down Njokuani once in their fight, but in the contender, but that really doesn't mean much. I think Njokuani's going to be able to keep this one on the feet, and I think he'll just be able to beat down Dusko Todorovic, and I think he's going to knock him out in the first round. I mean, honestly, Njokuani's pretty good. I mean, he showed in that Marc-Andre Barriault fight, big overhand right, putting him down immediately. The guy's got a hell of a lot of power. Todorovic's chin, I don't think is the greatest. I mean, he took a beating from Gregory Rodriguez, and yeah, he stayed on his feet for 15 minutes, but Rodriguez, put some damage on that dude. I mean, Njokuani beat some good guys in Bellator too. I mean, I know Melvin Gillard's on like a 17-fight losing streak, and I hope no one ever lets him fight ever again. Bare knuckle fighting, I'm looking at you. I mean, he beat Andre Fiallo back in 2016. He's got a win over Max Payne Griffin in 2015 as well. Njokuani's a good fighter. I think he should be able to come in here. He'll knock out Dusko Todorovic in the first round. I give him like 3 minutes, and that's what I think happens. Cheating Njokuani, first round knockout victory over Todorovic, improving to 2-0 in the UFC. Fireworks on a co-main event. Santiago Ponzinibbio fighting Michel Pereira. What a fight. My only thing with this is there's no crowd. Because this fight would go crazy with the crowd, man. And both these guys' last fights were with the crowd. I mean, Pereira, it's going to be weird seeing Michel Pereira fight without a crowd. I know he's done it. He did it when, we were in the whole pandemic era of things. But come on. I mean, he had a fight against Nico Price. It was a good fight. He wins with the crowd in Vegas. And then he beats Andre Fiallo, and we're going to talk about the fight in a second. But he beats Andre Fiallo with the crowd in Anaheim. It's a good win. He beats him by decision. For Ponzinibbio, he fights Jeff Neal in his last fight, and he loses. It's a split decision. It's a close fight. I can make the case Ponzinibbio wins that one. I don't think it's a robbery for saying that Jeff Neal won the fight. But, hell, I mean, it's a competitive fight. It's a close fight, and it's a competitive fight that they gave to Jeff Neal. And Ponzinibbio's run since coming back from injury, I mean, okay, so he leaves off where he's on a big winning streak. He beats Neil Magny his last fight before taking all that time off. He beats him in a main event. He knocks him down twice. He finishes him in the 4th round. It's Ponzinibbio outstriking Neil Magny, winning by knockout in the 4th. He comes back, Fight Island, Holloway Cater on ABC. He gets knocked out in 4 minutes by the Leech, Li Jingliang. Li Jingliang catches him, I believe it was with the left hook coming in, and yeah, he puts down Ponzinibbio. It's the first time Ponzinibbio had lost since, Lorenz Larkin beat him back in 2015. It was shocking, honestly. And then he comes back, he fights Miguel Baeza. I bought into the Miguel Baeza hype at that point in time. Now I've kind of sold my stock on him, but Ponzinibbio came in that fight. It was impressive. It was a fun 15 minutes. One of the best fights of 2021. Those two just stood there. They traded, and Ponzinibbio got the best of Baeza. He beats him by unanimous decision. Now, looking back at that fight, Miguel Baeza has not been the same. I mean, Baeza has just not looked good since that fight because he gets knocked out by Cass Williams. He gets knocked out by Andre Fiallo. I hope they give him really not great guys next time out in the UFC because Miguel Baeza can be good. It's just his chin's kind of failed him in his last couple fights, and it hasn't been pretty. And that can be thanks to Santiago Ponzinibbio. Ponzinibbio after that runs into Jeff Neal. It's a close fight, loses by split decision. I'm not mad at the decision, even though I thought Ponzinibbio won. Now, you look at his opponent now, Michel Pereira, and you know all the crazy stuff Pereira's going to do in there. He's going to do the backflips. He's going to try to entertain the crowd. Now, there's not going to be too big of a crowd in this one because, again, you have to pay $1,750 to go sit in the UFC Apex to watch a Holm main event. Again, why we're not going back to crowds every single week, I don't know. I know they're going to Austin in a couple weeks, but the thing is, they're going right back to the Apex afterwards for Rachmanov and Neil Magny, which is ridiculous. But anyways, and Arman Sarukian versus Mateusz Gamrot's on that fight card too, and there's going to be no crowd. I mean, come on, dude. Anyways, so Pereira fighting back in the Apex. You look at his win over Fiallo. That fight keeps looking better and better, and Andre Fiallo is on a mission to be on every single pay-per-view card now this year. I mean, my goodness. He's already booked for UFC 275. He's going to fight Jake Matthews. I think he'll win that fight, but he knocked out Cameron Van Camp before that. He knocked out Miguel Baeza before that. He loses to Michel Pereira, but the guy wants to fight all the damn time. And if Andre Fiallo keeps going on this run, which I anticipate he's going to beat Jake Matthews, and I think the UFC is going to want to kind of capitalize on what Fiallo is going to bring with that knockout power early in his fights and him wanting to be active, I think they're going to capitalize on that. I think they're going to give him some opponents that are kind of susceptible to being knocked out, but that's besides the point. That one's going to keep looking better and better for Pereira, especially because he was able to weather the storm of Fiallo. He didn't really get hit all that much by Fiallo in that fight. I know Fiallo took that one on relatively short notice because it's supposed to be Michel Pereira versus Muslim Salikov, but still, Pereira was able to weather the damage, weather the storm. He didn't allow Fiallo to hit him all that much in that fight. It's a really good win for Pereira. Look at his fights before that, beating Nico Price, beating Chaos Williams, and the Chaos Williams win looks good. He beats Imadaev before that, where he subs him in the 3rd round, didn't have hooks in, but he still subs him. He has the weird fight against Diego Sanchez, where he should have won, but Diego, the wise veteran he is, took the illegal knee victory. And before that, lost to Tristan Connolly, which is a weird outlier performance, because Connolly since just hasn't looked great. I mean, I don't know. He high-fived Keith Peterson on his way to the octagon, which is pretty funny. But yeah, Connolly hasn't looked great since he beat Michel Pereira. It was a weird just performance up in Canada. And before that, for Pereira, he comes in there. He beats Danny Roberts in his UFC debut. So I really like this fight. I think it can go either way. Ponzinibbio's got a chin on him still, even though he did get knocked out by Li Jingliang. I think that, again, is a rare outlier that you're not going to see often out of Ponzinibbio. Both these guys have got really good striking games. Pereira, obviously, he's going to throw the flashy stuff. He's going to throw the flying knees. He's going to throw the kicks. On the ground, I think both these guys are really good. I mean, Ponzinibbio does have 6 submissions to his name, given none of them came in the UFC. And Pereira, saw in the Amedovski fight, he is able to get submissions as well. But for the most part, you're going to see this fight on the feet. You're going to see a striking fight between these two. Even though, actually, I take that back. Pereira, when he needs to, can go to the takedowns. Like, you look at the Nico Price fight, he was able to do so. The Cass Williams fight, he did as well. So, I mean, I could see a world if he isn't getting into any danger on the feet. Maybe he does go to the ground. Possibly, but I don't think Ponzinibbio will allow him to take the fight to the ground. So I think you're seeing a striking fight between these two. I gotta take Santiago Ponzinibbio though. Still, I do like Ponzinibbio's games a little bit more than Pereira. I know he's getting old. He's 35 now. He's not the same guy that he was before the injuries, where he was fighting, Neil Magny when he was booked to fight Kamaru Usman in a fight where Ponzinibbio was, in all likeliness, was going to be the favorite in that fight when he was going to fight Usman back in Chile, and Damian Maia ended up replacing him. But Ponzinibbio is still really good. I think his striking's very good still, and I think he's going to be able to beat Michel Pereira. Like him to win this one by unanimous decision. Could I see a world where Pereira stuns him and knocks him out in the first round? 120,000% he could. But I think there's a chance Ponzinibbio rocks him too early. But I'm going to go Ponzinibbio by decision. Should be a fun one for as long as it does last. Probably a fight of the night contender, but yeah, going Ponzinibbio to pick up the win by unanimous decision. All right, main event time. Holm fighting Ketlen Vieira for 5 rounds. And Holm is 40 years old now, but she can still probably beat a lot of these fighters in the top 10 in this weight class. And she hasn't fought in a while, and her fight against Irina Aldana, I mean, okay, for Ketlen Vieira, let's just talk about this real quick. She's 2-2 in her last 4 fights. Like, I know she beat Miesha Tate, but Miesha Tate's over the hill. Like, let's be honest with ourselves. And the thing is, Miesha Tate's probably going to get a title shot after she beats Lauren Murphy. Like, that's probably going to happen. She's going to beat Lauren Murphy at 125. She's just got to win a split decision, and she's going to fight Valentina Shevchenko for the world championship. That's actually going to happen, because that's a real fight that gets people intrigued at the weight class at 125. Now, Ketlen Vieira beats Miesha Tate. She wins it pretty, I mean, I didn't think it was that controversial of a decision. I thought it was pretty easy, 3-2 Vieira. She wins the fight, that's cool. It's pretty much a stand-up fight that Ketlen Vieira wins. Now, let's talk about how Ketlen Vieira gets knocked out by Irina Aldana back in 2019. That was just 4 fights ago for her. She gets knocked out in 5 minutes as a real knockout for Irina Aldana. What did Holm do to Irina Aldana? Well, Irina Aldana just kind of froze when she fought Holm. Holm was out striking her. She was, hiss, hiss as Holm fights. She just outboxed her. She out-kickboxed her. She took her down 5 times. It was the body locks it was the clinch that Holm was using. And that's what she did when she beat Raquel Pennington. It was the clinch control time that Holm used. And eventually she dragged it to the ground. Now, she didn't do that to Raquel Pennington, but she did that to Irina Aldana. She executed a game plan. She dominated her for 25 minutes. Who's to say she's not going to do that same exact thing to Ketlen Vieira, but this time she's not going to be able to shoot. She's not going to be shooting for takedowns. She's not going to be looking for body locks. She's just going to stand the outside, and she's just going to outbox Ketlen Vieira for 25 minutes and out-kickbox her. Because I think that's what's going to happen. I mean, is Ketlen Vieira going to knock out Holm? No. Is she going to outstrike Holm for 3 rounds? No. She's got to win 3 rounds to win this fight. It's not going to happen. I think Holm's just going to win. I think this is one of the easier picks to pick on this entire card. I know she's 40 years old. I know she's getting up there in age, but let's be honest with ourselves. If Holm wins this fight, she's likely next to the championship. Assuming, okay, well, this is where it gets interesting. If Nunes wins, then Nunes and Pena are going to fight for a 3rd time. They're going to do it because no one's beat Nunes before. Pena will get the trilogy fight, even though she never defended the championship. That's likely what's going to happen if Nunes wins. If Pena wins, I think Nunes doesn't fight at 135 ever again. I think she goes back up to 45. I think she fights, the Macy Chassons and the Norman Dumonts of the world. She just defends her championship a million times up there. Maybe comes back down to 135 after Pena loses, but Pena's going to be able to. Pena is going to need some title defenses after fighting Amanda for a 2nd time. It's going to be Holm. So Holm, if she beats Ketlen Vieira, is probably back in line for a championship fight. Either way, even if Pena and Nunes do a trilogy, she'll probably get the winner of the trilogy fight because Durandamy just doesn't fight anymore. I don't know what's completely going on with Durandamy, but Durandamy owns a win over Holm. I know it was at 145, and it's that really controversial decision, and who knows about that. But I mean, right? Like, I don't think there's anyone that's gonna leapfrog Holly to get the title shot right now. Especially because Tate's back down to 25 or back to 25 for the first time, and Tate lost to Ketlen Vieira. Ketlen Vieira outstrikes Holm. Okay. Ketlen Vieira outstrikes Miesha Tate. She's not going to do the same to Holm. Like, you're hard pressed to find better boxers at 135 than Holm. Like Amanda Nunes, that's about it, right? Like, who's been able to outstrike Holm? Nunez, Cyborg, drained her enemy to some extent, but drained her enemy is a really good kickboxer. But I would definitely make the case that if those two fought again, I think Holly Holm would be able just to take her down and work her in the clinch a lot. Miesha Tate beat Holly Holm because she was able to score, you know, a submission with 2 minutes left in the fight. Ketlen Vieira is probably not going to do that because I think Holly Holm's takedown defense has gotten a lot better since then, and her wrestling's got so much better since that fight against Miesha Tate. Because you got to think about that. That was a point where Holly Holm was just being built to beat Ronda Rousey, and they played into Holly Holm's team and Holly Holm's camp played into Ronda Rousey's ego of thinking that she was the greatest fighter in the world, she was the greatest boxer, she could outstrike anybody and she could knock anybody out. They played to that. Holly Holm kicked her in the face and put her out and won the championship. She wasn't designed to fight a fighter like Miesha Tate, and Tate, you know, beat her. She choked her out in the fifth round, even though, Holly was up 3-1 going into the fifth? Valentina Shevchenko beat her, no shame in that. Durandamy beat her, but Durandamy, again, we said earlier, is one of the best kickboxers in the division. Cyborg is Chris Cyborg, and Amanda Nunes. Holly Holm doesn't lose to these fighters who aren't the best of the best. Ketlen Vieira, no disrespect, is not one of the best of the best. I mean, she beat Sijara Eubanks. She loses to Viana in a fight where, yeah, she took her down, she held her down, she did nothing with the top positioning. She got outstruck technically 47-7 in that fight, even though she had 8.5 minutes of control time. She still only got off 7 punches. Viana on the total strikes, you're looking 35-215 for Kunitskaya. And it's not like Viana is the greatest fighter in the world either. As a wise man once said, there's levels to this. There's levels to this game, and Holly Holm is levels above Ketlen Vieira. She's going to dominate Vieira 50-45. This fight will not be competitive. Holly Holm's going to win this fight, and I don't think it's going to be all that close. So that's my prediction here for this main event, -235. Seems about right for Holm. I mean, how does Vieira win? Lucky submission? Honestly, like, maybe she catches her in a sub because she's not going to outstrike Holly Holm. That's not what's going to happen. The only way I see Vieira winning potentially is if Holm takes her down and gets caught in something. But again, I don't think that's going to happen because I think Holmes is going to keep her on the feet and dictate where this fight does end up. So it's just going to be striking out of Holly Holm. Vieira's not going to be able to take her down if she wants to, and Holly Holm's going to win it by unanimous decision. So that will do it for our UFC Fight Night preview and predictions here for this week. I think next week you got a week off, and then you're coming back for Volkov and Rozenstruik in the damn Apex too. But hey, we'll be back with that. Bellator's taking a break for like a month, so no Bellator for a while. PFL is not back for like 3 weeks. I may or may not do Eagle FC tonight or tomorrow night. Maybe I'll post one, maybe I won't. Again, I think everyone thinks Júlio Santos is beating Yorgan de Castro, but maybe we'll make a video about that. Maybe we won't. But folks, thank you all for watching. Make sure that subscribe button down and below for more UFC here on the channel. Leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Thanks for watching, and Mamba forever.